Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Sunday. It's time for another video about the god Mabon, and today I'm going to focus on working with him. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, this will be a more theoretical video, because despite repeated efforts, I cannot claim to have successfully contacted the god Mabon, not through meditation or through any other means. And worse, I have found next to no information about other practitioners' experiences with working with Mabon. But that doesn't mean that there's no one out there who hasn't made contact or that there's no one who considers Mabon to be their patron deity. But the information is scanty, and whatever insights people in the situation have, they just haven't shared with the rest of the class. So if you are able to make contact with Mabon, if you are able to develop a really good working relationship with him, either on the seasonal level or on a more long-term basis, this is a fantastic opportunity. You could be doing some groundbreaking work. I mean, if you can really make that connection and get into a groove with him, if you then choose or are allowed, because he may not, maybe the reason why there's not much information is because he prefers his followers not to go around blabbing. But if you are allowed to, and you are able to share what you've learned with the community, that would actually be a fantastic service. Now, as far as Mabon goes, there are websites that discuss his mythology, but I really haven't seen much advice on those websites about how to interact with him, what offerings he prefers, or anything in that line. And the videos that I found about Mabon chiefly relate to the Sabbat that's named in his honor. Maybe they'll have a brief description of his mythology, but again, neither of these videos really goes into that much depth. And there's definitely not helpful hints like, here's what he really likes, and I was dealing with this issue and he really came through for me, or I found that this is very effective when I want to get in touch with him. Nothing of that kind. So, in the absence of knowledgeable guidance, what we can do is look to cues within his mythology and his magical correspondences. So let's see what we can find. Beginning in the myth. As we've discussed several times, Mabon was abducted and he was held prisoner until King Arthur essentially busted him out of jail. But it took a lot of effort to actually release Mabon. When Mabon and Arthur were talking to each other about how this could be done, Mabon stated very directly that it could only be accomplished through force. The bonds had to be broken in a forceful way. So if we are wanting to make contact with Mabon, I think we should probably plan on being persistent, making repeated efforts to do so, and we may need to have the same kind of forcefulness that Arthur had. We need to be clear, and we need to really want to contact him, need to contact him. I've gotten the impression that he's not going to respond to whims or just curiosity. If he was, I might have gotten a ping from him. I didn't. So maybe that means that there needs to be a purpose if he's going to favor you with his presence or with his guidance. Again, this is theoretical. I do not know for sure, but I think it's helpful for us to at least walk through the thought process of this. Because there might be someone out there who does feel very drawn to this god, and I don't want you to feel discouraged if your first attempts weren't successful. So on the note of feeling imprisoned, that is a feeling that Mabon can relate to for obvious reasons, because it wasn't just being trapped, his entire life was on hold. Remember, he was taken when he was 3 days old. So if we are feeling stuck, feel trapped, and we struggle moving forward in life, Mabon may be more inclined to listen to our plea, particularly if we have found ourselves physically trapped in some way. Particularly if this has its roots in childhood. Maybe we were sheltered to an extreme degree that wasn't actually helpful to us. Perhaps the lockdowns of last year and the continuing hysterical stupidity around COVID, maybe that has really gotten in our heads and we're just really feeling like I can never have a life again. In that mindset and looking to Mabon for guidance, maybe that would help improve the odds that he'll answer the call. So next in the myth, what we also see is that it was the salmon spirit who ultimately told King Arthur where he could find Mabon. Now, I haven't tried this yet, but I think this approach would be worth a shot. If we do a pathworking meditation with animal spirits, intentionally reach out to the salmon and ask him to act as an intermediary, or where we might be able to find him, or how we could get in contact with him, I think that might be an avenue that would be worth exploring. maybe the salmon would be as happy to give us advice as it was able to give King Arthur advice. Worth a shot. Now, later on in the story, we see that Mabon is the only person who had the ability to take a razor from behind the ear of a boar, which had to do with Colewich's quest. So we can ask ourselves, do we have a special skill at our disposal, something that perhaps is uncommon? If we reach out to Mabon for guidance on how to use this special skill and put it to work for good purpose, that might be something that can move him to favor us with his attention. Mabon was also known for his hunting skills, his horsemanship, and his hound. So if you're a hunter, you could ask for Mabon's blessings in your hunts. If you work with horses, particularly like them, or they're one of your totem animals, you might be able to make a connection with Mabon through that shared interest. And of course, dogs. Most of us really love our dogs. Mabon's dog, as a hound, that was more of a working dog, probably related to his efforts in hunting. So if we're a hunter, or if we're on a ranch or a farm, or in another setting in which there are working dogs present asking for Mabon's protection for the dog and for the work that you do with the dog, maybe that'll get his attention. So we have some things we can try. I wanted to draw your attention to just a couple of his correspondences. First, the element of water. And this connection is most likely because it was the salmon spirit who lives in water, quite obviously, was the one who directed his rescuers to where he could be found. So meditations that are water-themed, or if you're relaxing, floating in the water, have water sounds in the background, something of that sort, that might be an avenue to make contact. And certainly if you're wanting to specifically speak to the salmon spirit in hopes that it will be willing to be a guide to Mabon, definitely incorporating water somehow into that meditation, probably not a bad idea to try. Next, we have grapes and ivy. The Celtic tree months vine, as in grapevines, as others, and ivy, they take place during the Mabon season, and they also correlate to specific letters within the Ogham, and of course, the divinatory meanings of that Ogham. We could maybe use these as beacons when trying to connect with Mabon, use them as sigils. We can get creative. This might be something that creates that link, creates a bridge. So, from the upshot, I wish I had more information to convey, or experiences of my own to share, or at least to tell you what other people had experiences and give you links to stuff that they had done. But there's just not a whole lot out there at the present time. Maybe if more of us make an effort to reach out to this God and work with him, that could change. But for the time being, well, we've got what we've got. I will say this about Mabon. I have not gotten the impression that he's unfriendly or particularly aloof, but I also don't think that he just drops whatever he's doing anytime someone happens to call his name. So if he does respond to your efforts, I think you should take that as a compliment, and definitely a sign that you're reaching out to him for the right reasons. And now, if you are successfully able to make contact, if you've been working with Mabon for quite a while and you're at liberty to do so, please share your experiences. I would love to hear them at the brew. It would be very interesting to hear someone speak about that, and to speak from a place of knowledge and experience and practice. So above all, if you are feeling drawn to this God, keep trying. This season I have made a greater effort to connect with him than I have in years past. Thus far my attempts have not been successful, but it's still been a good use of my time. I've spent more of my hours analyzing his story, his mythology, things associated with him, and trying to learn from him. And if you feel drawn to him and he hasn't answered yet, again, don't be discouraged. These things take time sometimes with gods. The persistence is half the point. It's allowing you to prove to them that you are really wanting them around. So your efforts may yet be rewarded. I just think of it as a test and a demonstration of just how determined you can be. Maybe that'll be what tips the balance, and you find yourself making a genuine connection that way. So that's all I've got on the god Mabon for today. Again, I'm sorry it's not more informative as far as that goes, but I think it's a step in the right direction, and if nothing else, I think this illustrates a way we can go about learning about gods if we haven't made a connection and aren't able to learn from them directly. There are still steps we can take, and just because we haven't made a connection with them yet does not completely preclude the possibility of making a connection with them in the future. So that's it for now. I will see you in another video.